Hey guys, so this video is the second one. I did one earlier on scientific method and talked a little bit about growing tomatoes. So this one is going to be specifically about the project. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to do the project, or at least do a project very similar to what you're going to be doing. And again, this project is called Consumer Challenge. And so what that means is that, excuse me, what that means is you've seen those commercials on TV where they're comparing two things. This potato chip is crunchier than that potato chip, right? And they do a little experiment that takes about 10 seconds on TV, or this laundry detergent gets out grass stains, this one doesn't. They do a little experiment. So all we see is the result. We don't see them actually do the experiment necessarily. So Consumer Challenge is saying, let's actually do the experiment. Let's actually compare some products and see which are the best. And so that's where you come in. You're the consumer, and you can pick whatever products you want. A couple things I want to make sure you understand. Number one, this project shouldn't cost you anything, or at least if you do have to go out and buy something, it's something you're going to use anyway. So I was going to test paper towels, but because they were out of paper towels, I had to get napkins. So I'll be testing napkins instead of paper towels. But you can test toilet paper, you can test diapers, you can test, whatever it is that you use every day. Maybe you've actually seen those commercials on TV, and you thought, well, that doesn't make sense. So you could actually do one of the commercials that you've seen on TV where they test something. Maybe you're testing whether this laundry detergent will get grass stains out of your white t-shirt or not. You could do an experiment like that. But I'm going to walk you through the entire thing. I'm going to go through the pages in the project and let you kind of see how that works. Now, if you totally get freaked out and you think, well, I'm going to do exactly what he did, that's fine. You can do that. But you do have to do the experiment. You can't use my data. You got to collect your own data. But you can test napkins if you want to, okay? You can do it very similar to the way I do it. There's a myriad of ways that you can test napkins. So maybe you're testing napkins, but you're testing something different. So you can do exactly kind of what I did, or even redo what I did. But you definitely need to collect your own data and have that for your project. Okay, you can't use my data. So anyway, for this one, I'm going to test napkins. Now I'm going to walk you through the project. So this is online right now, and you can print it out and fill it in with pencil, which is what I did. And then you could scan it and send it to me electronically if you want to, or you can fill it out in pencil and take photographs of it and send me the photographs, as some of you have done with your homework, which is fine, but make sure your photographs are not blurry. If I can't read it, I can't read it. I'll make you do it again. So make sure that when you take pictures of this, I can read it. Now, some of you may want to get online with the document and actually fill things in and send me an electronic document. That's perfectly fine. You can do that. Excuse me. But I'm going to walk you through this one. And again, I filled it out by pencil, so if I was turning it into myself, I might scan it in a scanner and create a PDF file and send it that way. But again, you can photograph it if you wanted to. All right. So this is what it looks like. The first page talks about scientific method, how you do that, and hopefully that's just review, but this will help you kind of get started. The next page actually goes through what we're going to be actually doing, and you're going to be answering these questions. So I'm going to kind of walk through this with you, and then I'm going to actually do part of the experiment right now, so you can actually see me doing it, and then I won't do the whole thing because it'll take too long. I don't want to waste a lot of video. But anyway, we'll walk through this together. So the first question here, the step one says ask a question. So the first question in that is list the products you plan to test. Brand, size, color, shape, be very specific. And so on mine, I've listed paper napkins. I've got 3 different kinds. Now, when you're testing something, you might just test 2 things, but it would be better to test 3. I wouldn't test more than 4 or 5. But you can test 2 things. That's perfectly all right. Just like I did in my first video, I tested 2 fertilizers. That's perfectly fine. In this one, I'm going to test paper napkins and the strength of paper napkins. So I picked 3 different brands. You can't see them over here, but they're over here. One's called Check This Out Napkins. And I've got all the details here. Actually it's a 4-ply. I wrote 1-ply, but it's actually a 4-ply napkin, 120 count, and it was 79 cents for the 120 count. Check this out, napkins was a 4-ply 250 count for $1.69, and then the Bounty napkins was a 4-ply for 200 count for $3.49. Now, the next question says, describe what product feature you're planning to test. Discuss why this feature is important and why someone buying this product would be interested in this information. So you're kind of doing your own commercial. So I'm interested in the napkin strength. In other words, if you use a napkin, you don't want it to fall apart, right? You want it to kind of be there and pick up a dirty mess. You don't want it to fall apart and be part of the mess. So I'm asking the question, well, if I pick one of the more expensive napkins, are they going to be stronger? Because if I'm paying the extra money, right, I want a better product. And that's kind of the way we are anywhere. I can buy cheap napkins, but if it takes 4 or 5 of those napkins to equal one of those, it may not be worth it to get the cheap one. So my answer to this is I will test the napkin's strength. Napkins should not fall apart when cleaning up a mess. I will include the cost of the napkins to see if paying more gets you a stronger napkin. So not only am I checking the napkin strength, after I get that data, I'm going to kind of compare it to cost. And that's going to help me decide that this is good information people should know, right? Is it really better to buy a cheap napkin, or am I just going to have to use more of them to do what a more expensive napkin would do? Now, it asks what units of measure will you be using for your data? Now, you've got to measure something. You're going to measure something. Temperature, you're going to measure something with a ruler, you're going to count something, but you're going to have something you're going to measure. And so I'm going to measure with pennies. Here are my pennies. And I'm going to add pennies to the napkin until it breaks. And when it breaks, then I know that that's how strong that particular napkin is. And it says what measuring tool or tools we'll be using. Well, I'll be using the pennies to calculate strength. All right. Now, in this last part, it asks, so what is your question? This is what I'm going to be looking for here in the next couple weeks is your question. And my question basically is, are more expensive napkins stronger than less expensive ones? So first I'll test the strength, and then I'll compare that to the cost to see if a more expensive napkin is stronger, right? And that'll be my question. So step 2, I need to form a hypothesis. Now remember, a hypothesis is an educated guess, right? So I know about napkins. I've used napkins before, and I know about buying things that are cheaper, and they're cheaper, right? Now you know why they're cheaper. So I really want to know, should I pay the extra money for the Bounty napkins, and they're more expensive, or should I stick with a cheaper brand? And so my experience has been that if I pay for quality, I'm going to get quality. So I'm going to say that the more expensive napkin is going to be stronger. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's so strong that it's worth the extra money, right? If it's 10 times more cost, but it's only twice as strong, well, there you can see that may not be a bargain. But for the purposes of the experiment, I just want to answer that question that, yes, I believe that a more expensive napkin is going to be stronger, right? And that's your first page that you have to fill out. Next is the step 3, which is we're going to design and perform our experiment. So that's what we're going to do here in just a minute. So first question on here is list the products to be tested. Well, I've listed those, the different types of napkins. It says what will be tested in these products. Well, I'm going to test their strength, right? And it says list all the other variables that must be kept the same. So remember, the only thing I need to change in my experiment is the napkin. Everything else has to be exactly the same. So whatever I do has to be exactly the same. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'm going to stretch the napkin out between these reams of paper or books or whatever. I'm going to add some water to the napkin, right? And then I'm going to start adding pennies until it breaks. And I'll count the number of pennies. So if it holds a lot of pennies, it's stronger. If it doesn't hold a lot of pennies, it's not. So what do I need to keep the same there? Well, all the napkins have to be the same thickness. So they all come as 4-ply, but I practiced this earlier, and with 4-ply, they're super, super strong. I didn't have enough pennies. So I had to go with 1-ply. And so I'm going to take each of the napkins and only do 1-ply of the 4 for a napkin and test that. All napkins are about the same size, and they are. I've looked at them, and so they're all about the same size as a napkin, about 6 by 6 inches. I'm going to add the same amount of water to each napkin, so when I do it, I'll have exactly the same amount of water. I'm going to use the same pennies for the napkins, right? I'm going to apply the pennies the same way and at the same rate of time, right? And then if there's anything else you can think of, the same setup, do everything exactly the same. And those are the variables I want to keep the same. The only thing I want to change is the napkin, the type of napkin. Explain how you take measurements for collecting your data. Well, I'm just going to count pennies. Now, if I'm adding pennies to a napkin, right, and I've added 4, and I add the 5th one and it breaks, do I count the 5th one? Yeah, I'm going to count the 5th one. If I've got 5 sitting on there and I've got 6 in my hand, I'm getting ready to put it on there and it breaks, it broke with 5. So I'm going to count whichever penny made it break, that's what I'm going to include. Does that make sense? List what tools and supplies you're going to need. Well, I started out saying I'm going to need an eyedropper, but what I found was this little bottle, the drip bottle. So I'm going to use that instead of an eyedropper. I need pennies. I need some way to hold the napkins up. That's my books or my reams of paper. And then I have my napkins, right? Now, list any safety items you're going to need. So you might be working with something that might splash in your face. So you might need goggles. You might have something that'll burn your hands. So you might want something to protect your hands. For this particular one, I've got going to have water, so I want to make sure that the water doesn't go everywhere. So I've got some towels to clean up any water that spills. Now it says, how many trials will you perform? Explain why. So trials, as you remember, are the number of times we do something. So I've got 3 different paper towels here, but this particular one, the first one I'm going to test, I'm not going to test it once, right? I'm going to test it several times. So several different paper towels or several different napkins are going to get tested. That way, if one of the napkins is just really bad, right, and the others are okay, I won't have that one really bad one. So I want to do several trials. So if you did 3 trials, which is what I'm going to do, that's plenty. If you want to do more, you can, but I wouldn't do more than 5 or 6. Sometimes we do a lot. For example, remember we're looking for a vaccine, right, for this COVID thing. Well, they're not just going to test 3 people. They're going to test thousands of people. So their trials, they're going to have thousands of people in their trials, thousands of trials. And so for something like that, that's pretty important, and you probably want to have a lot of trials. But for what we're doing and for what you're going to do, if you can do it 3 times, that's probably a pretty good thing. So I'm going to do 3 trials. And it says, will you be using a control? Why or why not? So remember, when we were talking about tomatoes, we were testing fertilizer to see how it affected the tomatoes. And remember, we tested a fertilizer X, we tested a fertilizer Y, and then we grew some tomatoes with no fertilizer, and that was our control. In this case, with my napkins, the control would be no napkins, and that's just kind of silly. So there's really not a control in this one. What I could have done maybe as a control was maybe not add the water, but really we're not testing water, so that didn't make a lot of sense either. So sometimes you won't have a control, but a lot of times you will. Again, when we're testing drugs, you may be given a drug and told this is the drug we're testing, but it may be a placebo. It may be a sugar pill. It may not be the drug at all. So that's a kind of control. They're not giving you the ingredients in the drug because sometimes our brains do weird things with our bodies. And so that would be a good example of a control, and that's done all the time. But for our napkin experiment, we won't have any controls. So I'm getting ready to set things up here, and I'm going through my procedure. Now, what I suggest you do is when you get ready to do your experiment, practice your procedure, and that's what I did. I practiced it a little bit. I may have a problem with the Bounty one because it's so strong that it's holding up more pennies than I have. So we'll see how that one goes. But anyway, you may want to practice it and see how it goes before you put your steps together. But since I've practiced now, I've got my steps, and here's my procedure. So step 1, I'm going to separate the napkin plies from 4 to 1. So each napkin comes in a 4-ply. There's one napkin right there. There's one napkin, right? But it's actually a bigger sheet of paper that's been folded into 4 pieces. Each of those is a ply. So I just want one of those. So I'm cutting them out. So a 4-ply napkin, I'm only going to test 1 ply of the 4. Okay. Then I'm going to suspend one napkin between the books about 4 inches apart, and I'm going to pull it tight. So let me walk you through that. So I'm going to come down to my experiment here. So there's my books. They're actually reams of paper. And there's my first ply. Let's see if I can get one here. This is the first napkin I'm going to test. So in order to get the plies, I'm going to cut along the crease there, so I get just 1 ply out of the 4. There we go. That's 2 plies. Now I'm going to get 2 into 1. There we go. So now I've got 1 ply, and what I'm going to do then is I'm going to suspend it between. Whoops, I didn't cut, did it? Do that again. There we go. So now I'm going to suspend it between my paper here. So there's one end of it, and there's the other end of it. And I'm going to try to pull it tight as I do. I want it as tight as I can. There we go. And then I'm going to add 6 drops of water and wait 1 minute. So I'm going to add 6 drops of water and then wait a minute for the water to kind of absorb. And then I'm going to start placing pennies one at a time in the wet spot of the napkin. I'm going to add 1 penny every 2 seconds from a height of about 1/4 inch. So I don't want to drop them, like that. I want to lay them on there, but I don't want to touch it either, because that might be enough force to break it. And then I'm going to count the number of pennies. Once it breaks, I'll count the number of pennies, and that'll be my data. Okay, so that's my procedure. And then, sorry again. Also on here, they ask you for a little diagram. So I drew a diagram, what I'm doing. If you're not an artist, you can take pictures and just put pictures on here, okay? Or send me pictures and show me what you're doing. That will be perfectly fine. So we're ready to collect our data. Now I've already done the experiment actually. So I've already filled out part of this. But up here on the next page is where my data goes, right? And then here's where my analysis is going to go. But what I suggest you do is maybe just collect your data on a separate sheet of paper. That way you can kind of be sloppy and messy and then put it on there with a little more, little neater. But this is your original data, and then you're going to copy it onto there and, again, make it just a little bit neater than it was before. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start my first trial, and I'll do one trial and let you see that. I'll go through all 3 of them and do one trial. And then I won't run the video for the other trials, but I'll give you the data and show you how I did that, because it's just repetition, and I don't want to waste your time. So let's do the first trial. So the first trial is going to be type 1, which is one of the cheaper ones. It was the Napkins brand. And so I'm going to add my 6. Let me drop her down here so you can see it. I'm going to add my 6 drops of water. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6 drops of water. Now I'm going to wait 1 minute. So it's 4:17 and 26 seconds. And I'll pause you here while I'm waiting. All right, it's been about a minute. So we're going to start adding our pennies now. So there's my spot. And we're going to start adding pennies. I'm going to try to put them right on top of each other if I can. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7. So 7 pennies, and it broke. So we'll write that down for our data, for our first bit of data here. We'll write that down on here. Trial 1, type 1, 7 pennies. And we'll move on to our next napkin. All right. Our next napkin is, again, one of the cheaper ones. It's type 2, which is the HomeSense brand of napkin. So let me get 1 ply of that. I believe that's it. Can't remember now. Yeah, that's it. The home ply. Oops, let me get 2. let me go ahead and get one out of here. There we go. Let's do a home ply one. And again, I got 4 plies, so I got to cut it off and just get one. I just want one section here. I should have added scissors to my list of tools, shouldn't I? All right, so there's 1 ply of my second one. And I'm going to set it up exactly the way I did before. So I want to get this underneath here. I want to get it over here, get it as tight as I can between these two. And again, these could have been books. I just had some paper lying around. Now I'm ready to add my 6 drops of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6 drops of water. Now I'm going to wait a minute again. And again, you all don't have to wait on me, so I'll put you on pause here. All right, it's been about a minute. We're ready to add our pennies to our second type of napkin. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, oops, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, wow, 72, 73, 74, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, and it's still holding up. Oh, it's almost touching the ground. So 83 plus on that one. All right, and it didn't break, so I'm going to need more pennies next time, aren't I? Whoops, there it was. I'm going to need more pennies for that one next time. All right, let's try the last one. This is the Bounty. put these back. Let's try the bounty one. Oops. All right, let's try the bounty one. Let's see. There's a bounty paper towel, or a napkin rather. And let's try that one. Again, I just want one ply. So let's do one ply. I can get to it here. There we go. All right, let's try one ply of bounty. And let's get them 4 inches apart. There we go. Hold it down. Put you over there. All right, ready to do the bounty one. Come on. There we go. There we go. So I'm ready to do my 6 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 drops. And again, I'm waiting a minute, so I'll let you pause. All right, it's been about a minute, so let's start adding pennies to our bounty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. So it's holding all 85. Now, I did this before, so I knew it was going to hold the 85. I need more pennies, but I'm out of pennies. So if I do this experiment again, and again, if I had done this for a grade, I definitely would have had more pennies to break it. And it is sagging a little bit and could break if I added a few more pennies. But this one holds over 85. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. So the second one I did, whoop, there it goes. The second one I did, it only held about 20 some odd pennies. So I must have gotten one that was really strong on the second one to hold all that. So my data is going to be a little bit different than what I'm going to show you here in just a minute. But anyway, the bounty one always held more than the 85 pennies that I had at my disposal. So when I do my conclusion, I'll probably talk about that and discuss that I should have used either more pennies or something heavier. You know, I could have used something, found something a little heavier to use for weight. So what I've done then is I've done the rest of the experiment. I've got all my data, in my data box. And again, like I said, when you see this online, the second one didn't hold all those pennies. It only held about 20 some odd each time. So I don't know what happened on that one. But and then once I get that, now remember, I was thinking about cost too. So now that I know which one is the strongest, the Bounty, now I got to look at cost. So I've actually calculated the cost. The first brand costs about 0.6 cents per napkin. The second one that held about 20 some odd pennies cost about 0.67 cents. And the Bounty brand was 1.7 cents. So the Bounty brand is about 3 times more cost per napkin. So we know that it's more expensive. Now the question is it worth it? So let's look at the bar graph. Is it just a little bit better or is it a lot better? And if you look at the bar graph, it's a lot better, isn't it? So probably when I get ready to write my conclusion, probably my conclusion is going to be yes, more expensive napkins are stronger. And from a cost standpoint, it's probably better to buy the more expensive one because if I buy this cheap one, I may need 4 or 5 of them to do what this one would do. And now it's going to cost more. So the one that costs more may actually be cheaper in the long run. It's kind of like buying a car that costs a little bit more, but you don't have to take it to the shop every week, right? To get it fixed. So that's my data. And again, that needs to be filled in like this, and I'll have this online. You can see it. Email me if you got questions. Okay. And then finally, conclusion. I haven't written mine out, but let's talk about it a little bit. So the conclusion, the first thing it has to do is answer the hypothesis. So was the hypothesis correct or not? I said yes. More expensive napkins are stronger. The hypothesis was true, wasn't it? More expensive napkins are stronger. Then based on cost, are they a lot stronger? Are they worth the extra cost? And the data says yes, they are. In other words, if the napkin costs 3 times more than the cheap one, right? But looking at the data, if it's 5 times stronger, then you're getting a better deal, aren't you? Doesn't that make sense? Now, you also need to discuss some other things in here, like your procedure and stuff. So obviously, one of the things I would discuss is I needed more pennies, or I needed something stronger to test with. The procedure itself works pretty well. And again, I might talk about the fact that just picking up the packages, I could tell the Bounty one actually weighed more. So there's probably more stuff per ply in there, ends obviously because it was stronger. So you could just almost tell that just by feeling it and just by feeling the weight of the package. And again, trying to get accurate data is very important. So again, if I was doing this for a grade, I would definitely get more pennies and do it that way. I'm kind of in a rush. I don't want to. I want you to see this, so I would definitely get more pennies. Or again, find something that would weigh more to break it. And then any other questions? I mean, I wonder if the Bounty paper towels work the same. So I might test Bounty paper towels and other paper towels. Then at the end of that, there you see the rubric. So make sure that you follow this and fill this out completely because you'll lose points if sections of it aren't done properly. I'll be asking for your question here shortly and your procedure. So start thinking about that now. And you can fill out most of this. I filled out almost all this until I got to actually collecting data. You can fill out all of this before you even start your experiment. So you should be way ahead before you even start. Email me if you got questions. If you're having problems, let me know. I'll be happy to help you.